That's a good start. Kia ora koutou, a warm welcome to the members of the Risk and Assurance Committee of the Gore District Council. To those of you in the room, members of the public, welcome to you. And to the members of the council elected members who are not part of the committee, thank you very much for your interest in the work of the committee. To the CEO and her team, welcome as well. I see online we have one of our committee's guests, so just to stand down for this time, Mike, don't worry about being present. If you want to turn your camera off for 10 minutes or so, that would be fine. I'm going to begin the meeting by introducing myself. So I'm Giselle McLaughlin, I'm the independent chair of this committee. So I don't work for council, but I hope I bring some energy and leadership to the role and a view from outside the region, although I did originally live in the region. I would like to begin with a karakia, which is a call for unity in the room and also for those of you who are online and public. So I'll just read the karakia for you, and it goes, Tua ki ronga, tuia ki raro, tuia ki roto, tuia ki waho, tuia ki here tangata. Ka rongo te po, ka rongo te ao, haumie, huie, tae kie. It just means that it's all come from wherever we've come, outside or inside the room, and actually work together on the work of the committee. So I thought it was a great note to start on. I will just take a small point of order. I'd really like it if you would address me either as chair or as Ms McLaughlin. Similarly, the councillors obviously will be called respectfully their names. So just people often wonder with a female chair, what do we call you? So the answer is chair or by my name. Are there any apologies? I think we have everyone. I would also just like to take the opportunity to see if anyone needs to declare a conflict of interest with the topics in the paper. Go ahead, Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Chair. 5.1, as I hold qualifications as a technician and security consultant, and so does one of my companies.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Through the chair, I have a perceived conflict. I work for a company that leases the St James Theatre. We have no financial tie-up because I'm not on the trust, but I want the public and everybody else to know that. So it's just a perceived one, so I'm just notify that.
Thank you to both councillors. So we've got Councillor Stringer's declaration of a conflict. I'd suggest the conflict doesn't exist yet, but there's a perception, so thank you for that declaration. And then Councillor McPhail will deal with your conflict when we get to that paper, if that's all right with you. Everybody happy? All right, so just in terms of the agenda, we're going to confirm that in a minute, but I wanted to let the committee know that I've made a really small tweak to the information papers. So you'll note in the agenda, which is the papers at the end of the public section, section 7, that there are 3 or 4 people, 3 topics noted as having people available to talk to us. But because they're actually information papers, I've suggested that it's more valuable for this committee just to have a conversation, and any questions can then come to council when the minutes of the meeting and the papers come before the full council. That's especially true for the climate change report. So is everyone happy with that small amendment? Just get somebody to move that we proceed with the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Stringer. Somebody to second that. Thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Fraser. And is everybody in favour? Thank you. All right. Oh, and nobody opposing. Great, thanks. So we'll move on then with the agenda, and our first topic for discussion is item 5. It's the only paper in front of our committee for decision. So for members of the public or anybody else who hasn't been in this meeting before, our committee is not a decision-making body. What we do is make recommendations to council. So when we say here this is a decision paper, it's a decision to recommend to council or not. Now, I'm going to take the papers as read and first of all invite any questions or observations on the information which has been shared with the committee. Councillor MacDonald, would you like to go first?
I have no questions.
Thank you. I'll go round the table on this occasion. Councillor Gardine.
I have one, well, on the recommendations, the questions. We may need to have somewhere in between. I know we want an independent person to report on if there's a problem, but I think we could do that in-house and decide whether security is needed. I don't think it's a big, hard decision to outsource that.
So, of course, for members of the committee, we just have to remember that any operational detail sits with the CE, but it's appreciated to remind everybody we have always got to ask her to make those decisions. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions on this paper. Thank you, Madam Chair. First one from me, were other councils looked at as to what they've done with this determination?
Through you, the Chair. Yes, we did put a call out across the through the sector, and I only had one response from one council, and that was Wellington City Council. They have their own in-house security team. They are willing to share their information with us once they have developed it. Yeah, but no other items have been seen. Some councils have just adopted it as part of their standing delegations for the elected members and the manual you get up front. Some of them have automatically put it in there without putting it in front of their elected members first for approval.
Just following on from that question then, what was the thinking behind creating a separate policy for this rather than just adding it to the determination for elected members?
Through you, Chair, because the determination says may, so it's got to be in the council's decision on whether they want to adopt a policy on this and whether they want to actually endorse and reimburse elected members if the threat is seemed, I guess, big enough.
Through you, Madam Chair. One of the questions I have is around keeping the metrics of threats to councillors. So obviously we have an internal health and safety log of council staff. Might I suggest we extend that to councillors so we can actually get a metric of what's happening out there. And that would help probably inform what we need to do.
So before the CEE takes that question, I just want to confirm I had the same question, so I'd really appreciate some extra info.
Yeah, so I did have this discussion with Health and Safety last year when we engaged security around the LTP. And so the advice is that the council system we use at the moment should cover councillors as well, and also had the same discussion with LGNZ at the time. So if you are having issues and you do need to log incidents, you just need to email those through and we can make sure they get logged into the system.
I was just going to ask whether we'd looked at other councils the same as Ben. So.
My question is around the, I think it's a good idea, but the cost of it, $4,500 would be a pretty, I know you can get them for a few $100s, cameras and systems, or even, you know, is there an option to have maybe levels, $1,000 or $1,500?
Through you, Madam Chair. I guess that's the purview of the elected members. It's not a staff decision on that. Again, a threat assessment would be done. I would imagine would come to an in-committee of risk and assurance to then be approved through council unless it was urgent and needed to be dealt with sooner. But again, we'd expect quotes to be received to be reimbursed by.
Follow up from that then. So each case would be individually assessed and quoted and dealt with, not just a flat this.
Yeah, the legislation or the Remuneration Authority's guidance says that the threat has to be, you do have to assess the threat, so it wouldn't be a blanket, everybody is eligible for it. So there would have to be a really well-known and obvious threat to an elected member for this to be implemented.
How am I going? Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My question is around the threshold. And what is the threshold? Because the threshold to me would be completely different than the threshold to somebody else, and how that decision is made. I know that prior to the LTP, we had members, previous council, who were getting quite a lot of hassle, but some of us weren't. So how do we actually measure the threshold before we get to that?
Through you, Madam Chair, and that's why we say we do not have the expertise in-house and that we would need to get an external party to assess that on our behalf, where none of us are security experts.
Through the chair, I'm just the same about the cost. Having a wee bit of experience in this, it seems a lot, but I'm happy to go along with everybody else, so thank you.
Thank you, councillors, for your contributions. I think it's very important for us to remember that what the Remuneration Authority has set is a national figure. And in this community, we have the benefit of proximate, local, informed service providers. It probably means that compared with the costs in other parts of the country, we're in a position where things may be, depending on situation, more affordable. With your permission, I'd just like to make a couple of observations around the paper that is dealing with a very sensitive topic, which is the personal safety of not only the elected members, potentially the community board members, but also their families. And there's a lot of data which I think would be very helpful to the full discussion of council when you come to the, assuming we get a policy direction today, to understand the increase that has occurred in threats. And if you're interested in this area, I think the work done by LGNZ and the Ministry for Women's Affairs launched, I think last year, I think I'm right in saying, it was extremely insightful and informative. So I think there's useful information that could be shared as the policy's developed. All right, so go ahead, Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a further question that's come to mind, but it's probably more pertinent to ask it in committee situation because it could reveal security details about the council.
All right, so we've got a question that we're not going to ask, but thanks for the signal. All right, so what I'd like to do with those comments and questions, which I think serve to give the CEO and her team some sense of direction, is just to go to the recommendations in the paper. So the first one is that we receive and note the paper. I have a mover, seconder for that. Thank you. So Councillor Gardine and Cupit, thank you. And can I just have a very simple confirmation? Everyone's happy with that? Go ahead, Ben.
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out whether the appropriate time is, might just, because I have an idea for an alternative recommendation for the others, and I guess I just probably wanted to talk about the report a little bit. Is that okay, Madam Chair? So I just have a concern that this paper's slightly been overcooked. When I look at other areas, other councils that have done this, it is just within their reimbursement of elected members policy. So I don't know whether a whole nother policy needs to be created on this. I also had concerns just around council, and as Lorne mentioned before, we're not experts in the safety area. So for council determining what the criteria would actually be. In other documents such as Queenstown Lake District Council, they just refer the whole instance to, what is it? An accredited member of the New Zealand Security Association. So there are accredited people who do these security threat and risk assessments. There are standardised assessments. So I don't think we need to recreate the wheel with the rest of the paper. So I just wanted to highlight that as I'm happy to receive and note it as is, but noting that I'd probably have an alternative recommendation coming forward.
Thank you. We'll come to that in the next wee bit. So is everybody comfortable, all in favour of receiving and noting the report? Let's get the easy bit out of the way. All right, so we've then in 5.1b got a recommendation to council whether a policy needs to be developed. And we've already heard from members that there are a variety of views on that. So I am going to ask the Mayor to put forward his proposed small change and just see where that sits with everyone.
Thank you, Chair. So in just doing a little bit of background, the reimbursement of elected members policy that we have hasn't been updated since 2024. So some of the numbers are a little bit old. So I thought instead of developing a new policy that we recommend to Council that the reimbursement of elected members policy be updated to reflect the current remuneration authority determinations, which would include that of the security, which home security system allowance as well.
So we've got a moved amendment to the motion. I think for today, I'm really comfortable just to go with that. I'm sensing around the room other people feel the same. I would like to just suggest that there are elements of this whole issue which belong in the health and safety policy as well if they're not already fully covered. So maybe we can have that as the motion. Is everybody comfortable? So we'd have the amendment that the Mayor read out, and then and or the current health and safety policy, because that would deal with the security threshold aspects rather than the money aspects. All right. I'm going to. Do we need to be a bit more specific? You comfortable? Thank you. All right. So on that basis, then I'll just ask for somebody to move that amended motion. Thank you, Councillor Smith, and second, McDonnell. Thank you very much. And then all in favour. Anybody opposed? Thank you, everybody. All right. Now we're going to come to. C, we've got C as a recommendation for members of the public that the home security allowance 1 or 2. Taking from the mood of the meeting and the comments made so far that option 2, not reimbursable, has not been mentioned. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we actually need to go to this part of the motion now with changing the last part?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I probably threw you off. Yeah, the intention of that first one was to remove the need for the second one. Sorry, just while I have the mic as well, can I just, because it's probably prudent for this committee as well, that the policy that we've just asked to come back for security, it also doesn't have anything about the childcare allowance as well. So that might be something that needs to come back to this committee too. So that's common within determination as well.
Well, thanks for that. So I'm just going to throw that one right back at you and say, if you want to put that forward some other time, you can do that, if that's all right. And management will no doubt take that on board anyway. All right. So everybody comfortable with the suggestion and we don't need to consider C? All right. Well, I thank everybody for their contributions. Let's move on to item 6.1 and invite Mike Hawken, who is our audit partner from Deloitte, to officially join the meeting. Morena, nice to see you, Mike. Welcome to the meeting. So just for your information, the committee have in front of you a brief paper that just says you're going to talk us through the verbal report, the financial audit plan for this financial year. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to meet with the committee. I guess just sort of outlining the process. Normally we would table our more formal audit plan at the June meeting, and we will continue to do that. I think given the work program we've got ahead of us for FY 26-27, it's worthwhile just having some early engagement, I think, particularly with, the usual statutory audit we have at 30 June. We have an LTP upon us, as well as obviously the water reforms that will flow through into 2027. So there's quite a busy schedule, I think, for both management, the committee, and auditors in terms of what we need to cover over the course of the next sort of 12 months. The audit side, I guess, just starting off with that, is reasonably straightforward in the sense that there are no changes to accounting standards or reporting requirements. So I think from the committee's perspective, that is largely business as usual. I guess just noting we had a valuation that was undertaken on the property, plant and equipment in FY25. So I don't think we anticipate any update for FY26. So again, that should make the annual audit process reasonably straightforward. At the June meeting, as I say, we will table our audit plan and our proposed fee. The proposed fee will just reflect an inflation adjustment on the FY25 fee. So again, I don't think there'll be anything significant there that we need to cover. I guess the big program of work will then follow, which will be the LTP and the water reforms. And I think the water reform part is underway. I guess for the benefit of the committee, I am also the auditor for Central Otago District Council and Clutha District Council, sorry, have you still got me there?
Yep.
Okay, it just changed on my screen. Yeah, so I'm covering the three councils that will form, I guess, part of that newly created water entity. And I know there's obviously some movement with Waitaki as well, potentially. So I guess, we will work closely with all three councils in terms of what's happening in that water reform. But perhaps at this particular point, it might just be worthwhile me asking of the committee whether there are any particular issues in relation to the 30 June 2026 audit that the committee has concerns, questions about that we should incorporate and consider as part of our planning for that audit process. Noting that I think we are scheduled to get things underway during May with our interim visit. So perhaps if I just offer that opportunity to the committee, it's important, I think, from our point of view, that we get the committee's view as to risks and issues and feedback. And so just offering that opportunity.
Thank you very much. So before I hand this over to see if there are any questions, just for the members of the public and the other council elected members, I will mention that we've already done quite a bit of thinking and planning as a committee in our workshop that we had 6 weeks or so ago. And I have also met separately with the CFO and with Deloitte to start this planning. So we're all very mindful of the busy time of the year in front of the committee, and I know from the various meetings I've had with you all that this committee is committed to working hard, and we'll be working intensively through that June, July, August and September period. So just as a scene setter, does anybody have questions or suggestions for Deloitte and their audit work?
Just during that conversation, you talked about valuations, and it's the one thing that annoys me, is that we seem to be out of sync with valuations. Did I hear you correctly? There will be no valuation done for this financial year?
Yeah, so what would typically happen is there's a variety of sort of approaches to valuations across the council sector. Some councils undertake annual valuations of their water and infrastructure assets. That clearly gives them an up-to-date view of the valuation of those portfolios, but it comes with a cost of doing an annual valuation. The position of GORE historically has been to do a valuation on a cyclical basis, which typically means updating the valuation on a 3-yearly cycle. That is allowed under the accounting standards. It's certainly consistent with a great number of other councils who undertake those valuations on a periodic basis like that as well. So having done that valuation in FY25, as I say, we're not obliged to do an updated valuation for FY26. What we are required to do is to consider if that valuation continues to be appropriate, and I don't anticipate that would not be the case. So, you know, I suspect that will be the approach we take for FY26.
Anyone else?
Just a question around, glad to see that the audit's looking at kicking off on the 24th of August. Everything going well, when would the annual report look to be adopted? Would it be early October? Is that the estimation?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So we would aim to get the adopted at the, I guess, the ordinary council meeting in October and not have an extraordinary. That would be our goal.
Does anybody else have any questions or suggestions for the auditors? So I just thought it was worth mentioning in this packet of papers that we've got for this meeting, Mike, just for your benefit, we have got a lengthy, I'd say intense paper on climate change. And I'm aware from the management letter from last year that climate change is an area that you look at in the audit. So I'd really like you to just give us a little bit of a hand, if you like, on what you're looking for and if that's something we should be thinking about too. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a good question. It really comes back to, and it's an important consideration, I think, when we're thinking about the LTP in particular, because it's really in the LTP that we set out our service performance objectives, and that's where we might capture, for example, considerations about how we measure and report performance related to climate, sustainability, etc. And of course, we're then obligated as part of our audit opinion to provide an opinion on not just the financial statements, but the reporting against that statement of service performance. So, you know, I think climate has to be part of your consideration. And it's really what gets included in the LTP and the statement of service performance that really dictates then what you report and what we then provide an opinion on. You know, we've got a variety of degrees of reporting across the sector, where some are reporting GHG emissions, others are doing it more on a qualitative basis. So really that's a council decision in terms of what they want to report back to community. And as I say, I think will form an important part of your discussions and interactions with the community in setting the revised LTP.
So I'm just checking with the CFO or with welcome to the meeting, Mr. Domigan, GM of Critical Services. Any comment from you on that, just while we're all together?
Through the chair, thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely, completely agree with Mr. Hawken in terms of that and how it impacts our LTP planning. Obviously, climate change takes a big part, not just from I guess, a reporting point of view, but a work program point of view. So in terms of what we look at providing around level of services for across our activity range, part of that is around understanding the impacts of climate change and the impacts particularly on our services and how we then factor that into our planning going forward. So it has been for this council and will continue to be a factor that we look at. We also have some work that we're doing regionally around climate change to understand how we work together to make that more effective for our communities. So certainly plenty going on there, and that will continue to come through our LTP planning.
Thank you. Anything from you? No. All right, so anything else before we let Mike go to the rest of his day? No? Well, what I'll go ahead, Councillor Stringer.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mike. How much time and cost does the climate change reporting take up in terms of it? And is there any extra performance we'll get out?
Yeah, it's a hard one to answer precisely. I mean, that really comes down to what council decides to include in the long-term plan and report back against. As I say, at one end, you've got quite detailed and comprehensive reporting, including, GHG emissions, which is quite intensive in terms of review time. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got, limited sort of qualitative reporting that council might undertake. So, yeah, look, it's really a question of how far down or what type of reporting the council wish to include in their statement of service performance. So, yeah, we really just respond to what's included there. I guess what we can do and what we will do is obviously work with management when we're working through the proposed measures in the LTP and ensure that everybody understands what obligations the council is taking on by setting those performance measures, so that we all go in sort of eyes wide open as to, what the obligations are that we're creating for ourselves over the next 3 years.
So I just wanted to also take this opportunity for those people who are not in our workshop that we had about 6 weeks ago, members of the public. This committee is absolutely determined to balance, the short-term financial pressures that are on the council with the need for long-term investment. And I think this topic is a really good reminder for us all that we're needing to consider long-term investment and change balanced with the cost. So I think that was a big theme of our workshop, and I'd just like to express that. Go ahead. Thanks, Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just if we talk about obligations, if New Zealand decided to remove itself from the Paris Agreement, would all those obligations change?
I'm going to ask the CEO if she'd like to respond.
We have a legal requirement to include climate adaptation within our long-term plan. So we, at the moment, under the Local Government Act, are also required to consider how climate change impacts on our services and how we will respond to that. So it would be more than just whatever international agreements New Zealand enters into. There's significantly more obligation on us than that.
Anything else? All right, I'm going to draw this to a close then. We've got a recommendation to receive and note the verbal update, which has been very informative and signal of the work ahead, I think, for the committee. Do I have a mover, seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor McDonnell and Cupit. All in favour? Anybody opposed? Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, Mike, and we'll look forward to seeing your team on site here when we're here in June.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you. We don't have the Bancorp person yet. All right, the next item on our agenda is item 6.2, which is a report from Bancorp. We don't have the person available yet, so while we organise that, is everybody comfortable that we move to the next agenda item? Checking? Okay, thank you. All right, so the next agenda item is 6.3. And I'm just going to say, by way of background to the paper, that this is a final version of a lengthy piece of work that we workshopped with the management team, as I said, 6 weeks ago in our workshop. And I just want to acknowledge, sorry, Mallory, I don't know your surname, Cooper, thank you, Ms. Cooper, who has pushed this piece of work along. And it's a formal risk management policy that is vital to the work of this committee. So this is where the strategic risk governance of this organisation happens. Just a reminder for everybody that operational risk sits with the CEO. If you're looking at the papers, page 22 is where we pick up the report. Page 24, it's our job to recommend it to council, and the risk appetite statement sits on page 26 of the pack. So with those introductory words, I'm just going to make an open invitation to any councillors who, committee members who would like to speak. Please do. And perhaps it's just a nice quiet room, because we have had a very good go through this. For those of you who were present in the workshop, this is not the first time we've seen it, and it's been iterated for us, if you like, a number of times. So what have we got here? I've got the recommendations. I'm going to take them as a job lot with both A and B, with recommendation to receive and note the draft risk management policy and recommend its adoption to council. Anybody want to move that? I've got Councillor McPhail and Smith as a seconder. Thank you. All in favour? Councillor Bell, Mayor Bell. How do you want to be addressed in this meeting? As the Mayor? Thank you. Mayor Bell.
Yeah, Mayor Bell's great. Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I was just in the discussion part just going to thank the author for this report and policy. It's really, really thorough and something this council's needed for a while. So it's a really good piece of work. Thank you.
All right, so I think we should celebrate the adoption. Well done. It's been a team effort, and I think it's been really good to get us all very focused on the work we have in front of us in our risk part of our responsibilities. Congratulations. All right, item 6.4, I'll just invite the CFO to speak. Oh, didn't I do that? Thank you very much. I'll put the motion then for approval. All in favour? Thank you. Anybody opposed? Thank you. All right, thanks very much. It's definitely going to be a team effort to chair the meeting as well. All right, item 6.4, we have a draft forward work program just being proposed by our CFO. I'll hand over.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take it mainly as read, but this is a living document. It's here for a draft and up for discussion for us to move things around as and when needed, and also for you to members to suggest other items that may be added to it. Again, it's all dependent on work availability of staff, but I'm happy to take some suggestions and thoughts.
Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment really around where it's issues as they arise. Can we make it standard practice that we still let the committee know there hasn't been any incidents that have arisen in that time, just so we have a well-written record that it is being consistently reviewed, please?
Anyone else? All right, well, look, before we receive the report, I would just like to make an observation, which is that it is a difficult thing to put together a whole year's work ahead when we don't always know. And what we have tried to do in bringing forward this draft is bring forward something that is balanced across, taking the work that we need to do and spreading it across the year. But we certainly have a very intense meeting in June. And so I would ask management to consider whether we have enough time set aside for that June meeting, given that we are, as a committee, doing some of that work for the first time. At the moment, we have a 3-hour meeting, and I'm not sure, given when I look at that workload, we're going to be able to get through it. So I'd rather know that ahead of time. So it's my suggestion that, not that the workload changes, but that hourly, the planning changes, if that's all right. We don't need to change anything formally for that. Anything else?
Just on the table in the draft program, external audit review of recommendations. We won't be doing that every time. Is that just filled in? It's green all the way across.
Through you, Madam Chair, it depends on how long it takes to implement some of the recommendations. So some of them do have a longer implementation. So things like the risk policy and risk framework are things we've been working on. So we would report back anything new that hadn't been that was still outstanding. So we leave it in there as a placeholder. But if it doesn't need to be reported, and we've reported sufficiently for risk and assurance that you're comfortable with management's response to the audit program and audit recommendations, then we'd not present a report.
Sorry, I was just reading it a bit different from an accounting perspective, so sorry.
Go ahead, Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this set out in order of responsibility, or is it just a list? One question.
It's just a list.
So within that list, there will be some items in here that need to be done prior to others. Can we have it sort of that way around? So I know, for myself, I'll know what's more important to be done. If that's possible.
I'm just going to suggest probably not. So the way a work plan works is that it's things that are important in the moment. So things that are really important in June won't be important in November and vice versa. So I think what we can do is make sure that every agenda is prioritised in terms of the decisions, discussion, noting, and really happy to have some guidance from the CFO or other members of the team as we come into a meeting about what they're seeing as the priorities. But I don't think we can do that in a colour coding, if you like, for the individual meetings.
Thank you for that. I was just looking at April 26, there's 9 items ticked. And it's, if say we, for some reason, we don't get one ticked and it hooks into the next month, has that, because you've got June 26, have we completed April, if you know what I mean?
Through you, Madam Chair, some things are time sensitive. So with things like insurance, it is staggered throughout the year. We have only a couple of shots at getting that on the agenda. So we are, like for example, June, we're proposing a workshop where the brokers come down to talk us through what insurance we've got, what our premiums currently are, and what the market's looking like. They go away and they come back, and generally they give us a week at the end of September when they present us with the final report and recommendations to it actually needing to be in place. So we normally only have 1 week, which doesn't always line up with risk and assurance. So, I mean, I can talk through with committee members on each of those pieces of work and what the prerequisites are and what the flow is. If that's helpful, I could pull together a document and just go, here's the flow of the various streams of work.
All right, so does anybody move that we accept the forward work program? Go ahead, Mayor Bell.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I seem to be interrupting your flow today. I had 2 questions. Firstly, just around the policies. I see that there are 2 that have been pulled out already. Is the intention with this Forward Works program to, once we review the status report policy register, to add more policies into this document? Yep.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, yes, absolutely. You'll prioritise the workload. I mean, obviously we can't update. We know we've got a big stream of work to come on policies. We'll table them in with what the highest priorities ones are and move from there.
Thank you, and that's great. And the other one was just around the annual report. I see that's down for September, and we just talked about it being early October. We'll have a draft by September, and just putting it out there, I don't know if that's been scheduled yet for us, so just making sure that timing works with the council meeting in September as well.
Yeah, I think that's where management are keeping up their sleeve, that we might need to have a special meeting. So just for everybody to remember that those statutory frameworks and timelines are absolutely vital that we meet them, so we will need to work hard as a committee in our scheduled meetings and then in other meetings if we can't quite dovetail those things in. All right, but now can I, is anybody support in favour of the motion? Thank you very much. So moved by the Mayor. And somebody seconding. Thank you, Councillor McDonnell. All in favour? Anybody opposed? Thank you. Yes. All right, so I do want to take this opportunity just at this pause before we have a person come on. We're going to go back to item 6.2 to thank everyone who has contributed to this work program, the work done so far. It's been intense and it's going to be a busy 6 months. Thank you. Right, Miles, I think you're on the call. Welcome to the meeting of the Risk and Assurance Committee of the Gore District Council. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, sorry, I just had a little bit of a technical issue, and which I have managed to resolve, so you can hear me and see me.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
It's the only thing, the audio is cutting in and out a wee bit. I'm not sure why. Sometimes I get some words and sometimes I don't. So yeah, as long as you can hear me all right.
We can.
Some of
So
you are going,
you can feel free to do most of the talking. We'll take the
Right.
report as read. Thank you.
and sometimes you're going all fuzzy. So I'm not sure what's happening just at my end. Anyway, thank you for having the opportunity to present this. Where do I start here? Boy, there's been a lot happening in the last 2 months or so. So, I mean, obviously, you've all read about the war, you've all read about oil and the price of oil and the price of jet fuel and the price of gas oil. But from a monetary policy perspective, well, from a global perspective, what it's done is push up inflation expectations. And as a result of those increased inflation expectations, there's been an increase in bond yields across the world, across the globe, and including in New Zealand. We're just not immune to that. I mean, if you see a chart of New Zealand interest rates, long-term interest rates, they do follow the US, although we have gone up a little bit more than the US, and probably about the same as Australia. Australia's got their long-term bond rates are going up, not just because of the global shocks, but also because of their inflationary concerns. I was asked the other day, where does this all end? What is going to be the outcome of it? Where are interest rates going to go? I mean, I did sort of say, well, I think if I knew that, then I probably wouldn't be here talking to you, because that sort of having been privy to that sort of information, if you could look into the future, it would be very, very worthwhile from a monetary perspective. But I think sort of summing it up is, it's really, how long does this go on for? What central banks, and this includes New Zealand, have said is, in the New Zealand Central Bank, Anna Bremen, the new governor, did say, we will look through the first round effects of the increase in inflation caused by the increase in oil prices. But if those inflationary expectations get embedded in the economy and into the inflation rate, then she said we will have to act. And her words were, and I think these are the important ones, we will act decisively. So they have, the Reserve Bank's mandate is to keep inflation between 1% and 3%. And they took out the other, so one of the other planks of the contract between the Minister of Finance and the Reserve Bank Governor to say they also should take account of full employment, maintain full employment. Well, that's gone. So Anna Bremen said earlier, just not long after she took office, we are laser focused on inflation. So I think you've got to read into that they will not hesitate to raise interest rates if these inflationary expectations become embedded. They see inflation as a bigger enemy than a slowing economy. And the problem that we've got, I won't spend too much time on it, this is what I'm sort of coming to, is the economy only grew by 0.2% in the December quarter. We don't get the March quarter out till late in June. But if they do start increasing interest rates, it risks putting us into a negative GDP growth situation again. And if we have 2 consecutive quarters of that, that qualifies, or that meets the standpoint or the threshold for a recession. So we could have a situation where we've got high inflation, low, zero or negative growth. I mean, that's known as stagflation. And that I think is just, it's such an unpalatable outcome, but that's what the Reserve Bank see. They're economists, they know a lot more than I do. But that could be the outcome. Now, New Zealand interest rates have gone up, and since in the report, the 5-year rate actually this morning is about the same, 3.96 as it was in the well, it's actually exactly at 3.96 as it was in the report in the end of March, but it has been as high as 4.2%. But it has come off as we've had some signs of maybe there's a resolution to the crisis, or the conflict. But
thank you. I'm just going to stop you there, Miles. So thank you for that, if you like, global and national perspective. And what I'd really appreciate it if we can do is focus in on what does this mean for this region and for this council. So I've got a couple of specific questions just to kick off the discussion, and then I'll invite others to ask any questions that they have. So my first
can I just make one point, because this is what I was getting to.
Good as gold.
It's very quick now. I just had to sort of put it into perspective. So what it means now is that the markets were prior to the conflict, were focusing on maybe one hike in the official cash rate before the end of the year. But now it's around it's sort of 2, possibly 3, and with the OCR going to 3.5%, 3.75% by 2027, 2028. Now the banks actually have a wee bit of that's the financial markets. The bank economists are a bit different. ANZ actually saying that there'll be 3 hikes this year, starting in July, one in July, one in August, and one in October, to take us to 3%. And they think that will actually do it. They think that'll be all that the economy needs. But others are saying that, look, the hikes won't come quite as soon, but they will come later. So there is a bit of a divergence. I can see the logic in the ANZ's forecast. So sorry, I just need that was the final point that I had with that, just to say that there are going to be, I'm pretty sure there'll be increase in the OCR this year. It's just the extent of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see 3.
Thank you. And of course, was my first question. What does this mean for this council? So we've got 2 instruments, I think, up for renewal before or around the time of our next meeting. So there's a signal, I think, of not expecting the interest rate possibly to remain the same. So I think that's useful information for the committee, whose role is to highlight potential risk to the whole of council. We also, I think, need to note that we have otherwise a compliant report telling us that we're operating in line with our mandate. I think it's important to get that recorded, and with our thanks for the report. Does anyone else have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Gardine.
Just looking at our profile, we're sort of sitting very much on the commercial papers, and our bonds are getting run down, and looking forward, bonds are getting dearer. Why? There is one wee window there of bonds out to 2027, just 1-year bonds. Why don't we make use of that? Because it's probably cheaper than our commercial papers.
No, actually, bond rates are quite considerably more expensive than commercial paper. I'm just looking. You've got 8 million of commercial paper out of 64 million. That actually represents a reasonably low percentage. The commercial paper is at what we call a margin of 0.2%, whereas what we call the floating rate notes are at, the ones you've got at the moment are between, just looking through them, I mean, you've got a 0.68, 0.7, 0.62, 0.86. So they're probably 30 to 40 points higher, a floating rate note, than commercial paper. Commercial paper is by far the cheapest, and it does bring your funding cost down considerably. And as the debt's going up, I mean, I would probably be inclined to push up the amount of the commercial paper to 10 to 12 million, and that does help suppress your cost of funds. But just in answer to the question as well, you do have interest rate swaps at actually very good rates: 3.4, 3.55, 3.49. The highest is 3.99. And those bonds are at 1.9. The bonds that I can see on the report, like the one that matures in April 27, is at 1.95, and then the one in 28, 2.14. I mean, these were done back in the COVID days. when interest rates were very low. Those rates are now in the high fourth. So if we had to do the equivalent, long term, all those bonds, 5-year bonds now, those rates are in the high fours. So those 1.94s and 1.95s are historical. So I think we're achieving a pretty good balance between having a certain amount of debt floating and the commercial paper is part of that, and what you've got fixed.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I was looking at the 1-year bond of 3.5 and whether there's any use trying to get us through this period on a 1-year bond. Is there any advantage in that?
I'll just split down a page. Now, at the moment, with where the floating rate is projected to be, there would need to be 4%. There need to be 4 interest rate hikes just for you to break even on that bond. So you would. So if we were at commercial paper, using commercial paper, you would be out what we call out of the money on, or if we did an interest rate swap until the rate got to 3.5. At the moment, it's 2.75. So that's either 1%, either 0.75 or 1% of hikes, and then it would have to go above that just for you to break even. So we do those break even calculations, and we don't see the merit in actually taking any more cover out at this stage. We just think rates are elevated because of the conflict, and we don't see the value in them. We don't believe they're sustainable. That is on the caveat that we do get some sort of resolution in the next month or two, in the next few months.
Thank you. So I'm just going to sort of pause this conversation here. Just a reminder that this committee isn't a decision maker about these things. What we are here to do is to give oversight. And I think big picture, the report gives us assurance that the cost of funds has been well managed, and it's really interesting to see that the cost of funds is actually below where it was 8 years ago. And whilst it's been volatile over that time, overall, I think we are given assurance from the report that we're sitting in a good position. Now, what I'd like to do is thank Miles for the insights, and I agree it's a very volatile time out there, but let's bring it back to our job today, which is to receive and note the report. Do I have a mover for that? Thank you very much, Councillor Fraser. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Stringer. All in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. Anybody opposed? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Miles. We'll look forward to finding out in 3 months' time whether your crystal ball is any more helpful. We appreciate it.
The one thing, so is just one point I will make. Your cost of funds is 3.66%. It actually compares very favourably with a lot of councils. And I can actually put that into a comparison, but I realise you're busy, you've stretched for time. So, look, thank you for the opportunity of presenting, and have a good rest of the meeting.
Thank you. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you very much. What we're going to do now is move to item 7 in the agenda, which is 7.1, is the 3 reports for information. So just to cover off again, what we did in the beginning of this meeting was agree a small amendment to the agenda that those people indicated as potentially available to talk to their papers have been released from that obligation, because these are papers for information. Now, I'll just own that it's something I need to make sure that I'm comfortable with, that the information papers don't need discussion. But on this occasion, because they are in here, and one of them in particular is very, very important, I think we will take a little bit of liberty and have a conversation about them. But it's my intention as chair to make sure the information papers are just for information and they don't require discussion. Reminding members of the committee, we agreed a protocol in our workshop that if you're not happy with that categorisation, you can ask for a paper to be moved to discussion. So it's not about suppressing conversation, it's just about clarity, particularly for those who are attending. All right, so we have 3 papers. I'm going to take them one at a time. The first one is the health and safety paper, which you can see begins on page 35 of the pack. and the duty of this committee is to give oversight. So the context of this report being in front of us is to get assurance that the appropriate systems, resources, processes are in place. So with that opening, just for members of the public, we've got not a fire alarm. Test, good. I'll open it up for any questions or observations about the report. And I would encourage everybody using the Gore District Council values to keep the conversations efficient. Councillor McDonnell. Anyone else on the health and safety? Go ahead, Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on page 2 of the health and safety, there was in previous council meetings discussion around the gas detection units for the confined spaces. From memory, there were some issues with the gas detector units we had, and the other thing I want to ask is, are they being serviced at the appropriate time frames by the appropriate companies?
I'm just going to check with you. Operational question? You happy to leave it as an operational issue?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. In terms of the report, then, the contents of the report, any questions or observations? Councillor McPhail.
Through the chair, I'm just asking, the near misses that are reported there, the list of those, we don't see those obviously, but are they're clearly marked so that if they're reoccurring all the time, because we always see near miss, we don't know what that is. So that is part of the reporting? No.
So just before that, I'm going to just suggest, can you give us a page number at all for your questions? And we've got the near misses, but we've got a... All right, thank you.
So the purpose of near misses is exactly what you're talking about. It's to help us identify if there are hazards or ongoing issues where we then have to intervene to make sure that there isn't an accident. Does that make sense? So we always, in fact, you should always, typically, you have more near misses than you would have accidents, and that's what you should see in reporting. But yeah, basically we report on near misses, so it helps us identify hazards, and then we can act on those in a preventative manner. Does it make sense?
And just, it's also an obligation under the Health and Safety and Employment or Health and Safety at Work Act to do that. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Does the council have a code red policy for, say we have a death on the workplace? Do we have a quick response pack that we bring into action?
We have a whole list of obligations, legal obligations that we have to meet under WorkSafe, and so we have a procedure to make sure that we meet all of those.
So a question I think probably comes from the heart of like actually just do we all know what we're meant to do? That might be something that could be picked up. I don't know what's been covered, but yeah, it's an interesting question. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just around the EAP program for staff, I've seen a reduction in the use of that. From the risk lens, we're going into a rather stressful time for a lot of our staff. I'm just wondering, is there something we need to be doing or supporting as a council to ensure the staff are aware that that's there to be called on if needs be?
Through you, Madam Chair. We regularly promote it throughout the organisation. It's on our HR channels, it's on our internal intranet, and where managers are aware of staff having issues, it is one of the first things that they suggest. So it is part of we have normalised it in our day-to-day work operations.
Councillor McPhail, I'm going to give you one more go. Go for it.
You're very generous, thank you, Chair. Just one thing about that, I just saw it listed here, the Good Yarn Workshop. Now, I'd like to know just if you can explain what that's about, so that maybe that's something.
It's focused around mental health, and it's about how you have those courageous conversations with people who might be exhibiting signs of issues with mental health. So it helps equip staff to keep an eye on their colleagues and know how to approach them, or what things to say if they notice some behaviours that aren't normal for them.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Chair.
All right. Any other questions or observations on the report? Councillor McDonnell.
We have had a steady improvement during the year. If you look at the first quarter, we had 53 incidents, next quarter 40, and we're down to 22, so well done.
Thank you. And in similar spirit, I'd like to commend the commitment document that we can all see on page 41 of the pack. The leaders of the organisation standing for what they are committing to. I thought that was worth also commending to everybody. If you haven't had a chance to read that document, I think it's really putting your mark where it counts. All right, so in terms of the health and safety then, I would quickly invite somebody to move that we receive the report. Thank you, Councillor McPhail, seconded by McDonnell. And does everybody in favour of that? Thank you. Anybody opposed? All right, so just reminding us all that it's a discharge of our oversight responsibilities as a committee to receive that report and to be satisfied on the systems. The second report we have for information is the Aged Debtors Report, which you'll find starting at page 43. I will just invite exceptional questions on that. It's a clean, tidy, informative report. So is there any significant questions or observations people have about the report? Okay, I'll move. Can I have somebody to move it, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. And all in favour? Thank you. Anybody opposed? No. Thank you. The third information report is the one that I was mentioning earlier in our meeting. This is a report that's been prepared by others, not by council, but is being shared with the committee as a first look before it goes to the full council. It's a report on climate change, and it is called the Murihiku Southland Climate Change Impact Assessment Report. For anybody not on the committee, I do commend the report to you for reading if this is something of interest to you. It's long. It's a lot of reading, so let's not fool ourselves. It's a dense report, but I was going to invite Councillor Smith just to kick us off in a conversation about where can you look for the highlights.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 169 of the pack does have an at-a-glance overview of this. So I found it quite helpful to start there and then work my way back to the points that I thought would be quite interesting or relevant to our town and the decisions we're making. So I'd commend everyone to have a read of that just to get a high-level overview of that information.
Councillor Fraser.
When you talk about page 169 of the pack, that doesn't come up in my system. I've got each individual, so I'd like a page inside the document, yeah.
The pack should be the same as the PDF. So I had downloaded the PDF today, and mine says page 169 of 217 on the bottom right-hand corner. Yeah.
All right, everybody, I'm just going to, don't worry about it for now. We will offline that conversation for the end of the meeting. So that when I said don't worry about it, let's not worry about it. Thank you. Thank you for a good Samaritan. But I do want to get this sorted because what I would like to ask everyone on the committee to do is always come prepared to signal I've got a concern or a question about page, whatever it is. So let's make this work for everybody and make it easy for those who are attending and for members of the public to follow where we're up to. So this might be administrative, we'll sort it, but it also really, really matters. All right, let's go back to the substance of the conversation. Where were we? So we've had at a glance, good reminder, page 169. From there, does anybody have points of substance or questions about this important report? Go ahead, Councillor Stringer.
Through you, Madam Chair. Can I get a printed copy of this to read, please? It's a lot easier than doing it on a digital.
I think anybody who wants that can deal with management offline about that. Thank you. Any points of substance? Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
I think this report will play a lot into our long-term planning process, particularly around some of the green initiatives, whether that be solar or electric car fleet. I know that the bottom dollar is a pretty important part of our conversation, but I think this leads directly into that as well. And what ways can we get best bang of buck for our environment, but also on the ratepayers' dollar? So I would definitely implore that council as a whole does consider this in their decision making in that long-term plan.
Just invite management to share some thoughts with us. Thank you, Mr. Donegan.
Through the chair, great comment, absolutely. So just for councillors, for committee members and everybody watching, in 2018, the then organisation NIWA did a similar study which was used across planning documentation. So this is effectively the second iteration of that, so it will provide us with a really good baseline to start the LTP conversations, similar to the comments echoed by our audit partner earlier in the meeting. So, perfect.
Councillor Gardine.
Yes, some of the report I'd probably have some disagreement with, and I think there is. I've lived long enough in the district to know that we've always had climate change and we always will have it.
Anyone else? Councillor McPhail, and then Cupid, I'll come to you.
Through the chair, this is a continuation of what we're actually involved with the Regional Climate Change Workshop, and we've made a commitment to be involved with that, so we're part of it, so we know what we might need to do and what we don't need to do. It's just a work in progress, and I think this part it's good that we get this. It's very scientific and it's pretty heavy reading, but we need to look at it anyway. Thank you.
Anything, Councillor Cupid?
I was just agreeing with Councillor Gardine's thoughts, but I understand we have legal requirements that mean we have to take all this into consideration.
Thank you. Mayor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I guess it would be really good to, these impacts are quite serious, and I don't think it's any shock to anybody that this is what's coming, and probably we've got enough lighter than some other parts of the world. But a lot of these are outside of our reach is the Te Authority, and so it would be good to understand from Environment South and what they're going to do to improve their mitigation of these risks. There's only so much we can do in terms of where we build, but if everywhere is flooded because flood banks are breaching or whatever, that's got to be, we've got to push back a little bit to the regional council and make sure that they're responsible for their part of the task here.
And just as a reminder, that Environment South are more than happy to be here, but given we had an information paper, I suggested that it would be more useful for them to present to the full council, and I think to give some direction to them on what exactly you would like to hear from. So I think there's a bit of work still to be done in the digestion of this report by the committee members and then the full council. I do also just want to mention one thing, which is that when we generalise, like on page 169, we can think it's one picture for the whole region. And of course, what you see in the content of the report is that it is not. It is actually quite varied, and there's some very specific detail, which is operational planning, but it really just is a reminder that there's some aspects of the report that will mean very different things for different parts of the community. So it's not a broad brush planning or prediction tool, and it's an intense subject. All right. I'm just checking if we've got anything else I wanted to mention. Probably just the one other thing, I haven't got detailed insight yet into the the changes to what's coming through with the changes in water and governance structure and so on, but there are parts of this report that will also affect that new entity, and the point well made by the Mayor is what's their job, what's our job, and what's someone else's job in the future is a picture that I think needs to be extremely clear for the LTP. All right, so as a signal of what lies ahead of us to grapple with long-term planning, we have a report for a change is looking out 50, 60, 70 years instead of 50, 60 or 70 days. And I just challenge all members of the committee to come with me on that journey as we start thinking about the LTP. All right, can I please have a mover, seconder to receive the report? Mover, Councillor Smith, seconder, Cupit. All in favour? Anybody opposed? Thank you, Councillor Gardine. All right, so on that basis then, we move to the final agenda item, which is 7.5, which is a report recommending that for the balance of our meeting, we exclude the public. That report will be taken as read. Can I have a mover? Councillor Gardine, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Fraser, to receive the report and thank members of the public for their online or in-person attendance. We appreciate you. Nice to see the smiley faces at the back of the room. Thank you. I think the other thing I just make clear is that elected members of council who are not on the committees